fostering deeper relationships, influencing behavior change, developing resilience. You're about to start winning. Here is your host, Christine Bright.
Welcome to Parenting Game. I am so glad you are here. We are in our second episode on generosity. We've been discussing ways to teach your kids how to be generous. One way to get your kids started at thinking about how they could be generous is by looking for YouTube videos. Get the discussion started that way. See what they find. Let their creativity take over. And once those good hormones start kicking in and they see how generosity makes them feel, then as a family, you can work together to find places where you can show generosity. Today, I have Kris from Second Harvest, and he is going to share with us some great opportunities that Second Harvest offers to families and to kids to help them show generosity. Kris, thanks so much for coming today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah. So we've known each other from past life, I guess.
Yep.
It's been a few years since we've connected, but our kids were in Sound of Some Prairie together.
There's nothing that brings together parents and kids like a marching band.
Oh,
so that
my
was a
gosh.
lot of fun.
Yeah, it was just a huge family. It was a great time during my son's life. It was a great way for us as parents to be generous.
Absolutely. We were definitely
time.
generous with our time.
Yes, you just ate and slept it and then volunteered to raise money. It was a really great time in our lives. And then we figured it out. It's been, like 8 years since our kids have graduated from that.
Yeah, it's tough because like when the kids are in it, you know, like anything that the kids are in, swimming or whatever it is, when the kids are in it, it's like that's your life. And then when it goes away, you're like, oh my gosh, now I have this void now I need to fill. And so thinking back on it, it was an incredible time.
It was, yeah. Dalton graduated, and then 2 days later, he left for DCI. He was playing with the Pioneers. And that summer, I was like, what do I do with myself? I mean, the sun's gone. There's no Sound of Some Prairie.
Yep.
You know, it was a little like, oh, well, maybe I could have my own life for a while.
Go figure.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more. What are your kids up to now? I mean, they're adult children, adulting.
So yeah, I've got two boys. Both of them went through the Sound of Sun Prairie. My eldest, which is probably the one that went through mostly with Dalton, and he played alto sax in Sound of Sun Prairie. Now he works at a local staffing agency. He lives in Sun Prairie, so he's very close. And our youngest son is actually even closer. He still lives at home. So he actually works at the same company my wife works at, so they commute together.
Oh, wow.
And so
cool.
that's really nice. So it's nice to have both of them close. And our eldest is still a frequent visitor at our home, and lots of times it's to shop. Shop our pantries.
Yeah, what do they have that I don't have? So too, just thinking about, when your kids were growing up. Now, as we said, we've talked about Sound of Some Prairie, and, that really was, there was a lot of demand on the kids, and they had to be generous too, because during the off season, we were all at the football games and the hockey games,
right.
Working concessions, to help raise money. So that was just like built in. But with your family, were there other things outside of that that you guys participated in?
Honestly, especially during Sound of Sun Prairie time and raising funds and volunteering to really help pay for Sound of Sun Prairie, it really was all about Sound of Sun Prairie.
Yeah.
And if we weren't in Sound, we were volunteering to pay for Sound. But that was it's a great thing for the kids, because not only did they learn responsibility about being in the group, but then they did learn generosity. They did learn how to earn their own way, so to speak, by volunteering, because they knew that if they volunteered, that actually helped pay for Sound of Sun Prairie. But they learn the value of volunteering, and hopefully it will instill in them kind of moving forward. So that's an exciting opportunity.
And it wasn't easy either. There were some of those football games that were so stinking cold. You just did not feel your feet by the end of your shift because it was so cold.
Yeah, I actually remember one day where we worked the football game, and it was like an 11 o'clock game, and then we walked down and worked the hockey game that night.
My goodness.
That was a mistake in hindsight, but it was that was quite a day.
Oh my gosh. And did you ever work the hot chocolate? Where you were down in the dungeon, we called it?
I did not work the hot chocolate. I definitely saw them do that.
Saw the carnage.
I got you could get the smell,
Yes.
which was it left an indelible impression. But I did not work that.
Yeah, we did one shift with the hot chocolate, and it was like everything just got thrown away. I mean, it was just you were just a sticky mess, and just like in your nose, and it was amazing where hot chocolate all went.
I can imagine.
And it was like a really cold, so like we weren't making it fast enough. It was crazy. But we're like, okay, well, we can put a check mark by that. We did that duty.
Had
but
that experience,
no
don't
longer.
need to do it again.
Yeah. So talking about Second Harvest, first just give us an overview of where, like how does it work? What communities do you serve?
Sure.
How, because you guys push out a lot of food, and I
do.
know it isn't all donated. So just tell us what Second Harvest does and how it works.
Yeah, Second Harvest is a food bank that serves here in southwestern Wisconsin. We actually serve 16 counties here in southwestern Wisconsin. So if you think about, we go down to the Illinois border and we go over to the Minnesota border. That's kind of the corner of Wisconsin that we serve. We're one of about 200 member food banks of Feeding America. Feeding America is the largest domestic hunger relief organization. And so there are really four primary ways that Second Harvest tries to end hunger. One is the way that everybody knows us for, which is food distribution. And last year, so we're on a fiscal year thing, so in fiscal year 21, we actually distributed over 22 million pounds of food.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that is, and there's no way that we could have done that without our partner agencies. They have, they are the pantries that are in the communities. They are the churches that allow us to bring a mobile pantry onto their parking lot to serve folks. Those are the folks who are really the front lines of helping people who are struggling with hunger. So food distribution is kind of that primary way. The next way is through, it's our food share outreach. And for those who may not know what food share is, nationally it's called SNAP, which is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And still people may not recognize what that is.
Yeah.
What they really will recognize, it used to be referred to as the food stamp program.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so food share in Wisconsin is the old food stamp program.
Okay.
Now they no longer do the coupons or anything like that. They do it on a debit card. But what we do is we're actually out in the communities that we serve when it's not a COVID time. And we help people understand that the program exists. What are some of the eligibility requirements? What are some of the benefits that they could be receiving if they were to apply? But then most important, we actually help them go through the application process.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and because as you can imagine, it's a government program.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, it's not a Second Harvest program, it's a government program. But so there's lots of paperwork that is involved, and that can be frustrating, especially to somebody who is already really stressed because their situation is in a place where they have been brave enough to ask for help.
Absolutely.
And so you're already in that super stressed kind of situation, and now to shove a big long government form in front of you, that there's no wonder some folks would maybe not fill out that form correctly. So we're there to help them, not game the system in any way. We simply want to help them fill out that form properly so their entire situation can be evaluated to determine if they're eligible and how much they may be eligible for. So between those two things, the food distribution and our food share outreach, it was a little over 19 million meals. We like to try to equate it to meals. And so that, of course, was COVID time, which we're still in, of course, and it seems to be bouncing back, unfortunately. And so that's why we're here. We're here to help folks who are struggling. And so the third way that we help end hunger really is, being here is an example of it, and we call it Mobilizing the Public. It's helping folks understand that hunger exists, that we're here to help, and so that everybody has the opportunity to give back to the community. So that's the third way that we help end hunger. And then we also have relationships with the healthcare community. We call it our Hunger Care program, where we help the healthcare community understand the connection between food insecurity and some of the health problems that are happening with their patients. 10, 15 years ago, that connection wasn't made. It was, doctors and healthcare providers, they would ask for a certain set of symptoms, and then it was like, check, 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 okay, we're going to give you this pill or this, whatever it might be.
Medication.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so what we're trying to do is say, okay, yes, it could be, where that medication is needed, but it could also be that they just don't have a great healthy diet.
Yeah, they need some proper nutrition.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
We see that with folks who are struggling with diabetes. We see that with kids who are struggling with attention deficit disorder, right? Where sure, there may be some chemical things happening in there, but a lot of times they just don't have enough nutritious food. And so, I mean, think about when you and me and there's a certain candy bar that has a commercial around it. They're talking about hangry, right?
Yes.
I mean, now imagine trying to go through school and learn and have all those synapses kind of firing while you're also hungry. And maybe you didn't have breakfast. Maybe you didn't have dinner the night before. It's impossible. No wonder that they struggle.
Yeah.
So those are the 4 primary ways that Second Harvest ends hunger.
And then, as we were talking about, I mean, you distribute a lot of food. Not all of it, comes from donation, a good part of it. But you can go to the Second Harvest and donate food. Is that something that you can do as a family?
Well, Second Harvest is really set up to deal in bulk.
Okay.
We are most efficient when we're dealing with tens of thousands of pounds of food.
Okay.
And so what we always do is what we suggest is if somebody is out in the community and maybe they've got a garden and they have extra, right? Find the local food pantry that is right there in their community. There is one, I promise you. And those size donations are much better suited for the local pantry than it is necessarily for Second Harvest. Now we'll have the barrels out, and we'll have those out, coming later on this fall as we hit the holiday season. And of course we want to see those filled. But the reality is that those smallish donations are better to go to the local kind of frontline pantries who are serving that community directly.
And the barrels work well for you because now you're getting a big influx bulk of food to distribute.
Yeah, with our campaign in the fall, we'll have it's different because of COVID, and there are a lot of companies who are not necessarily doing things like this, and so it's going to be a little bit different than in the past. But typically, we'll have anywhere from 300 food drives happening within the 16 counties that we serve, and so we'll have barrels all over the place. And then what happens is it comes back, and then on one day, we sort all of that food because it has to go into different categories and things like that. So it's called our sort-a-thon. And then once we have it in those different categories, and then we have them boxed up where we can send it out to our agencies, 10 pounds of boxed dinners, that kind of thing. Then what happens is we will take that product and we'll put it in our warehouse, and then we have an ordering system similar to Amazon, and so our partner agencies can just go onto that ordering system. They can order it. We deliver a vast majority of the product to our partner agencies, and then they will get that product and they'll put it on their shelves. At least that was pre-COVID. Now we're still in a position where most of our partner agencies are actually it's a drive-up kind of thing.
Okay.
Where they drive up, pop their trunks, and then put the product right in there.
Put it in there. Yeah. Okay. So with that being said, there's a lot going on at Second Harvest. You're taking in a lot of food that needs to get organized and packaged and out. So I'm guessing there's volunteer opportunities there. So briefly go over, in-house at the Second Harvest facility, what volunteer opportunities are there?
There are a number of volunteer opportunities. We have group opportunities where we'll put 10, 12, 15 people in a room, and we will have them sorting out produce before it gets boxed up. Where all of the food that we put out, we need to make sure that it is appropriate to go out, because 65% of the food that we distribute is donated. Well, before it goes out, we have to make sure it's still edible, viable, and that kind of thing. And so that's one of the projects that they can do is they'll inspect food, they'll make sure it's good, then they'll get it boxed up and get it ready for distribution. We also have bulk food where we'll get, you think about the rice you get at home, it's a pound or something like that. Well, we'll get a 20,000 pound bag. And so we need volunteers to then take that rice and put it into small family size bags so that it then can go out to our partner agencies.
And I did, when I was with Madison Chamber, the cereal.
Yep.
Trick cereal. And I was like, I was craving trick cereal by the end of that because you're just smelling all that. And I'm like, I think I need to go get a box. But yeah, that's what we had done, and it's like you don't think about that for you and just for the community, it's more economical, to get that stuff in bulk.
Yeah, because
and now it needs to be packaged appropriately.
Honestly, we can buy it for pennies on the dollar, and that's why a lot of folks, when they say, "Well, how can we help? Is it better to give food or to give money?" Well, the reality is it's better to give money, because what we can do with that money is we can buy 10 times the amount of food with the same $10 that somebody might give as you can by going to the grocery store. So it's simply more efficient. And so those are just a couple of the things that our volunteer crews can do. You don't have to come as a big group. You can come as individuals, and then we'll put you in with others. But we also have volunteer opportunities where if you have a special skill, let's say somebody is really, really good at social media, or they're really, really good at typing or data entry or something like that. We can usually find a spot and a way for you to help when you have a specialized skill like that.
Okay, so and that would be for Second Harvest, like their administrative work.
Yep.
Oh, that I did not know that. So that is really good information too for people who have those skills and maybe looking to use them. I mean, it makes it more enjoyable for you too when you're using a skill, to serve and volunteer another person. So as we talk about the volunteering, of course, our focus is how can we get our kids involved. So we're going to start with the youngest and then work our way up. So 12 and under, because to serve with the parent, you have to be between 12 and 15.
Yep.
So for those kiddos that are 12 and under, when we were talking, you shared some very creative ideas on how those kids may be able to raise funds to help Second Harvest.
Yeah, we've had examples of, kids who they'll do a lemonade stand, and then they'll donate the money to Second Harvest. Or we've had lots of examples of kids who they say to people who are coming for their birthday, "Oh, don't get me a gift, but make a donation to Second Harvest on behalf of my birthday." They'll start a Facebook thing where they will actually give a gift on behalf of them to us. And we also had there's one little girl who several years ago, she was turning 9. And she wanted to do something. She wanted to give back to the community. So she decided that for her 9th birthday, she was going to do 9 acts of kindness in the community. Yeah, it was so amazing.
It's like I get chills.
Yeah.
I'm getting chills.
Yeah, I think one of the things that she did is she went down to the local firehouse and she helped them wash the trucks, which was just the neatest thing when I heard that story. And what she did for us is she had the quintessential red wagon. She walked around her community and collecting food donations for Second Harvest. And I remember the day she came in, we took pictures, and she was so proud. And so those are a couple of ways, obviously with parent involvement and stuff like that. So those are a couple of ways that the really young under 12 can help.
Okay, and then that 12 to 15, with the parent, then they can come to the Second Harvest facility.
Absolutely.
And so we talked about some of those ones, the sorting, packaging. So are those opportunities available to all those kids in that
in that range, as long as they have an adult with them.
With them.
Yep.
What have you seen? What have you seen most families do, or kids that age? Is there something that you've noticed that they kind of like doing better than another volunteer opportunity?
Oh gosh, honestly, I think most of the time I have seen it's either the sorting or it's the bulk production.
Yeah.
Because that's really what happens most days. We don't necessarily adjust unless we know there's a big group of, say, 30 or something like that, maybe kids from a class, and they've got plenty of adult supervision. If that's the case, then we'll try to find something special for them.
Okay.
That it might still be kind of breaking down bulk product, but it might be something small, so it's not super heavy and that kind of thing. But a lot of times, these kids are kind of coming in on their own, and we just don't know what we're going to be doing in the
that
volunteer
day.
rooms that day.
Okay.
And so they just jump in, and they're hard little workers, and they're the ones who typically have the most fun, because they maybe we're sorting potatoes, and they see this potato that the two of them have combined. It looks like a heart, and so they have lots of fun with that.
Oh.
So that's a really neat opportunity.
Yeah, I know
when
there
you see
was a
that.
really, when we did that with the chamber volunteered, I mean, the energy is contagious.
Absolutely.
I mean, you just cannot be grumpy.
No.
And that's where, again, we had talked about those hormones and stuff that are released when you're being generous. But I mean, we just all left on a high. You cannot leave there being grumpy. And if you do, then I don't know how you do it. But
well, and certainly we have some jobs that are not as glamorous. And I will tell you, sorting potatoes is not super glamorous, because every once in a while you come across the potato that is little, we'll just say, beyond its prime. And there's certain things that happen to potatoes.
That start to grow on it. Yeah.
And so that can kind of get you a little bit, but you're right. I don't know that I've seen anybody walk out of there after volunteering with us who didn't have a smile on their face, didn't know the impact that their time was making on their community, and that's really exciting to see.
And then that's 16 and up.
Yep.
So now those kids can come in on their own.
Yep. We figure if they can drive, they can come and volunteer on their own.
Got it. Nice.
And a really, in addition to reinforcing this idea of being generous and really making that a lifestyle choice, there is some other benefits to kids who are in that 16, 17 year range, and that is, it looks really good on college applications.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is a great idea.
Yeah.
That is a great idea. Now, is that, because now we're going to delve into that now that you brought it up. So is it like a consistency? Like, would they want not just a one and done to work with you guys, maybe to have a consistent 1 month or 3 month where they came in at a consistent time to volunteer?
Yeah, I think it is about the consistency. It's not about, I went and volunteered at Second Harvest once. They're like, no, I'm a regular volunteer. In fact, over the last 2 years, I've donated 1,000 volunteer hours to Second Harvest. I mean, it's those kinds of things that truly stand out when it comes to those kind of applications. But any amount of giving is going to help the community, and so that's what we.
But
we like to
that's
support.
a great piece, to know, for families is like, it really is a give and take. I mean, generosity, of course, helps those underserved, helps our community, but, we reap a benefit too. I mean, they just say that people live longer who are more generous. They're more healthy when they're, generous. And so it's really a good, path to walk with your kids.
Absolutely.
And start introducing that. So before we go, I just want to do a wrap up. So if you want to volunteer, do you guys have a sign up system online, or do they need to call, or how does that work?
If people go to secondharvestmadison.org, they can go to and they can find our volunteer page, and then the volunteer page, it literally will go to sign-ups, where it'll have the day, it has the number of people that we need for a particular shift, and they can click on it and then enter, I'm going to bring 3 people with me, and so it automatically adjusts to, if we needed 15 people and you signed up for 3, they're going to automatically adjust that.
Okay.
And we've got that. Typically, it's going out into the future anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. We really encourage people to sign up ahead of time, so we have a sense for how many people are coming. It's pretty rare when people just walk in and volunteer.
Yeah.
Not like we can't handle them, but it's pretty rare. So we like to have that planning in place. Which would be really nice. And we have some restrictions, of course. You can't come into the warehouse with open-toed shoes, and so there's things like that really are makes signing up in advance important.
Okay. So you're aware of all that.
Yep.
So now we're in this resurgence of COVID. So have there been any limitations or restrictions? I mean, I'm assuming wearing masks, and I think we had to anyway because we were baking food.
It depends on what the product is, whether or not you would normally have to wear a mask. But yes, we certainly, because we're in Dane County, and frankly because we're in the United States, yes, we are encouraging actually not beyond encouraging. We are requiring masks.
Okay.
For
But
for
it's not
people.
limiting what you guys are doing there.
Nope.
So those opportunities are still open for anybody.
Correct. Early on in the pandemic, when things were actually shutting down, and even when there was the social distancing, we made volunteer opportunities that were socially distant. We don't have that restriction today, but we still do have the mask restriction. So, but very early on, a lot of the volunteer groups that we get are from companies, and the companies were, they were furloughing people, they were shutting down their offices, and so they weren't coming in to volunteer. And frankly, we didn't know how many outside people we wanted to be in the facility, because if we would have been hit with a hotspot of COVID, it would have been really bad for the people that we serve. If we would have had shut down for a week or 2 weeks, and luckily we didn't, that would have been pretty devastating.
Oh, I bet, because they get counting on that,
right?
Coming in. So that's awesome that you guys have been able to work through that and continue to serve. So I know you probably have a plethora of stories, and I know you got to keep confidentiality in mind. But is there a story that you're comfortable with sharing of I'm sure you get feedback from families who were struggling and like this was a godsend. So are there any stories that you can share with the impact that has made?
I tell you what, and this similar story has happened so many times. So what I'll do is, especially during COVID, I'll walk in. We've got the mobile distributions, and they stay in their cars. So there's a limited opportunity to kind of have really a decent one-on-one interaction. But I'll go around and I'll ask some of the folks, about what brings them here today, and how is this impacting their lives. And so many of them, they start to break down, and they talk about the difference that it's making in their lives. They're talking about the fact that they are now able to, because they saved $40 or $50 on food, that they can now take that money and put it towards gas for their vehicle or for their rent or something like that. And so that happens time and time and time again, that folks who I talk to are so grateful, and they talk about the impact to their lives, and it's heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time to know that the need is out there, but that we are there to help meet that need. And so that's just that's exciting for me as the communications person, and it's humbling to me as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Kris, thank you so much for joining us and sharing those stories. And I'm sure you're going to be getting some calls and hopefully kids. What I'd really like to see is the kids take the initiative. Hey, mom and dad, this is what I want to do. Or, that 16, 17-year-old that's like, yep, I'm just going to, figure this out on my own and start going volunteering. So that's what I really hope comes out of this.
We're there for them.
Yeah, so thank you. And thank you for how you guys set it up too, where you're trying to make it easy, for people to sign up and plan to do that. So that's a really great system that you guys have.
It's key for us to make it easier for people to help.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, time invested in a child is never wasted.
Thank you for watching The Parenting Game. All episodes of The Parenting Game are available on demand at sunprairiemediacenter.com.